Let's get started. My name is Sarafi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we have a ban list coming. That's right, the KC Cup is right around the corner, and oh man, it feels like it's been ages since we had a good ban list. Back in September, when Konami took Blackluster Soldier outside and beat it. Man, I've been waiting for it. The meta has felt so stale. But now, we get our real hard knocks, and I'm looking forward to it, chat. Let's get into it. So for the state of the meta, we have Constellar, and Constellar is probably the best deck on ladder in my opinion. They are extremely consistent. They build a board that's very difficult to break. They are able to draw through their entire deck. Multiple cards search, multiple cards give you just draw that you can repeat. I've seen people play 2 copies of Constellar Star Chart, so they can draw twice. It is absurd, and that deck needs to be reined in a lot. Tenyi is very powerful, and they're very difficult to disrupt. They have so many ways that they can just keep extending. I've seen Tenyi players open literally just Adhara and both their spells and make a Link 3. It's crazy. It's very difficult to stop Tenyi once they get started. You can't bounce their cards to the hand because they can still use the effects in the hand. You can't really target and banish or target and destroy because they have Nimbapura. So the deck is just really strong outlier, and you have to kind of deal with it. Mayakashi is an outlier. It's definitely a powerful deck. I would not disagree with that. However, I think that Mayakashi is seeing an outsized performance in tournaments. I don't necessarily know that it's going to do all that well in the KC Cup. It's a little too early for me to tell. But I do think that Mayakashi is probably still going to get nerfed, just because like how Tenyi got nerfed right at the beginning of September. Even though it's a new deck, it's a deck that's obviously strong. So they probably want to just give it a little love tap to try and draw out the play rate a little bit. And then I imagine they'll nerf it again later. Live Twins at this point definitely deserve to get hit. I don't think they deserve to get hit that much, but they are very annoying. And I think that Konami, honestly, Konami needs to change the Legend of Heroes skill, but they're not going to. They really do. If they change the Legend of Heroes skill, that would fix almost all of the problems that they have with all these control link decks. But they are not going to do that, so Live Twins is going to get nerfed in response. S-Force is fine. S-Force is a good deck, but there are good decks in the meta, and it's not a problem. Earth Machines are strong, but Machina is still too new. So if anything gets hit, it will be the Infinitrax section of Earth Machines, and I do think that it will get hit. Rockets are old, and it's a little odd that they're this powerful despite being so old. But the last KC Cup, I was expecting Rockets to be like one of the best decks, and they weren't. So I imagine that they're not going to do too well this time either. And if they don't perform well in the KC Cup, Konami's not going to nerf them. Alright, so for the Tier 1 decks, I think that Yuki Onna the Ice Mayakashi is going to be put to 3. I think that Mayakashi is a deck just like Tenyi, where the cards are ridiculously powerful. I do not think the skill is a problem. I will go ahead and tell you guys that. I've done this on stream. If you have Daki and you have any level 1, and the deck runs 6 level 1s, they run 3 Hajuns and they run 3 Yukis, you can go through the entire skill, no problem. You can go into the Synchro 3, then you can go into the Synchro 5, then you can go into the Synchro 7, then the Synchro 9, the Synchro 11, and then you still can Link 2, Link 3, Link 2, Link 3, Link 2. So the skill dumping cards in your graveyard is not good. It's not a benefit. It stops you from timing out. That's all it does. And really, I'm in favor of that. I don't want people to time out. It's really annoying. So I'm completely fine with the skill. Yes, it does give you extra cards in the extra deck, but really, I mean, when you have these like climbing decks that the game is balanced around a 15-card extra deck. Konami needs to take responsibility for that and give us more skills that expand the extra deck. Or they could just increase the extra deck. They really should do that. But regardless, the skill is not a problem. I don't think Mayakashi is a problem either. I like the deck, and I think it's powerful, but there are key ways that you can play around it. Really, the problem with Mayakashi is how much they can flood the board in a single turn. And so what I think that Konami is going to do to start with is they're going to put Yuki Onna the Ice Mayakashi to 3. This is a card that you cannot run at anything less than 3. The monsters limit you to just playing Mayakashis, so you can't put 2 Icicle Mayakashis in the graveyard unless you play 3 copies of Ice Mayakashi. So you could run 1 copy of Hajun, you could run 1 copy of Yuki, you could run 1 copy of Daki, you'd be fine. Trying to limit the main deck monsters isn't going to do anything. But if you put Yuki Onna to 3, then they're going to play 3 copies of Yuki Onna, and that means they won't be able to play any of the limit 3 cards. They don't really do that right now anyway. So that's why I'm not really sure that this is going to be the change that Konami makes, if they make a change at all. But in the same way that they kind of were very lenient with Tenyi to start with, I think that's what they're going to do this time. They're just going to be like, okay, well, we're going to hit Mayakashi just to make it so that the people who don't really know how to play Mayakashi that well will feel like they shouldn't, because those are the people that are going to rely on the limit 3 traps a lot. And then the better players will not be hurt that much. Tenyi, I think that they're going to take Tenyi Spirit Adhara and put it to 2. Because they put a limit 2 on Tenyi and it didn't do anything. In order for a limit 2 to have any function at all, you need another card to be limit 2. So they put Adhara to 2, and now you can run 1 copy of Adhara and you can run 1 copy of Vessel, and that's it. And Adhara is really the card that kind of ties the entire deck together. You need Adhara, period. So you can't synchro at all without Adhara. It is a tuner monster. It is the only tuner monster. So putting Adhara to 1 makes it so that you basically have to use your 1 copy of Vessel or your 3 copies of Circle to get Adhara, because otherwise you're not going to get it, or you're going to get it off of Vishuna, which means that you can't get Vishuddha off of Vishuna. So it makes it so that the entire deck focuses around this 1 copy of Adhara, and that makes a very clear target for the Tenyi opponent. The Tenyi opponent knows there's 1 Adhara. If I get rid of the Adhara, the synchros are all gone. And that's what Tenyi needs. They need a clear weakness. And putting Adhara to 1, well, putting Adhara to 2 and then forcing the Tenyi player to run 1 copy of it is going to fix the deck. And if they decide to run 2 copies of Adhara and 0 copies of Vessel, that will nerf the deck enough anyway. Alright, so for the tier 2 hits, there's only 1 tier 2 deck right now, which is Constellars. So for the Constellar change, I would recommend that Konami just cut the ability to normal summon Constellars without tribute. There are only a certain number of ways that you could nerf the skill. You can't change the Xyz summon part, because if you do, then people can't make Pleiades, and that's the entire point of the skill. The entire point of the skill is being able to make Pleiades, so the Xyz summon part has to stick around. So you either change the mill or you change the tribute. And basically when you're doing that, you're either choosing whether you want to kill Sombre or Zubin Shamali. And I think Sombre is a much more interesting card than Zubin Shamali is. Sombre is a card that doesn't trigger when it's normal summon. It's an ignition effect. And it has a second effect as well. So when you effect Veiler Sombre, you're turning off 2 effects instead of 1, and you're hurting the deck a lot more. So I feel like Sombre is a card that makes a lot more interaction for the player. As far as Caduceus, you can just mill Caduceus with the skill. So you mill Caduceus and Sombre, then you normal summon Rasalhagu, you tribute Rasalhagu, you get Sombre back, Sombre, banish Rasalhagu, get Caduceus, special summon Caduceus. It means that you can't summon 2 Xyz monsters, but that's the point. You're nerfing the skill. So that's what I would do to try and change Constellars. The problem really with that is that it makes Caduceus less good, and Caduceus is the new card. So of course they want Caduceus to be good, but there's got to be something that they can do to nerf the skill, and this is what it is. Konami might just pull a limit 1 BLS thing and limit on Omega, like they did with Chaos Form. That might be what they decided to do. They say, oh, well, Pleiades is limited to 1. Let's just limit 1 on Omega, so people can't make Pleiades and Omega at the same time. That fixes the problem. My version of it fixes the problem, but you can still play Omega. Their version of it just makes it so you can't play Omega. So, either way, the idea of Omega and Pleiades not being on the field at the same time is accomplished. We'll see what Konami does. Alright, for the Tier 3, we have Live Twins and Earth Machines. Live Twins, they should put Live Twin Home to 3. Live Twin Home is a good card. It is a card that makes Live Twins function, and it covers their weaknesses. The weakness of Live Twins has always been their normal summon, and if you attack the normal summon and they play Live Twin Home, they are discarding a card to cover that weakness. But that should come at a cost, not just discarding a card. So I think that Live Twin Home should be limited to 3. That way, if you're playing Live Twin Home, you get to cover the weaknesses of the deck, but you have less back row to make up for it. And if you are not playing Live Twin Home, you get better back row, but maybe you don't get your Link monsters because you got your normal summon disrupted. That is an exchange that I feel like Twins have to make because they gain 2,000 life points. They should just kill the skill, but they're not going to. And then for Infinitrax, you put Heavy Forward to 3. So Infinitrax are not really a deck that plays Limit 3's like traps, but they play Machina Citadel now. So if you put Heavy Forward to 3, then people have to choose between Heavy Forward and Machina Citadel. And they already have the search with, they have the Brutal Dozer that lets you special summon a monster from the deck, and they have the Machina Redeployment, which lets you discard to draw 2 Machina cards. And they have the normal summon level 2 that searches as well. So this deck is already a deck that has way too much search. it just needs to stop. So put heavy forward to 3, that way they can't play Citadel and heavy forward. They will stop playing heavy forward, and then the deck will be less consistent, and it will stop being tier 3. Alright, we need to talk about Orcust. So, Orcust is not a deck that I think should be nerfed, but they have 4 limit 3s now, which is a problem. It just doesn't make any, it just doesn't add up. You can't have 4 limit 3s, Konami. That's not right. You can't play one of each of these cards because there's 4 of them, and you can only play 3 of them. So, this needs to change. And I don't want Orcust to come back to the meta at all. I understand that Orcust is toxic, but Armageddon Knight has been printed. It's basically only going to see play in Orcust, so let's try and make it so that Armageddon Knight can see some plays so that Konami can sell selection boxes. So, what we should do, this is complicated, so bear with me here. I didn't have room on the slide. What we're going to do, leave Armageddon Knight at limit 3, and leave Scrap Recycler at limit 3, right? So, Armageddon Knight, Scrap Recycler, they stay the same. Then you can unlimit Nightmare and Harport. Just take them off. It's going to be fine. And then in exchange, you move Orchestrated Babel to limit 2, and you put Galatea to limit 2. There you go. So, that means that Orcust can only play 1 copy of Galatea, which is a nerf, but you are in exchange buffing their turn 1 substantially. So Orcust will become much more consistent. They will be able to play their Dingirsu with less headaches and with less diving through their deck. But when turn 3 comes around and they're expected to play again, they're going to have to choose between reviving Dingirsu from the graveyard or reviving Galatea from the graveyard and then exceeding it into Dingirsu. Or if they want to make Dingirsu without reviving it from the graveyard, they'll need to make Longirsu and exceed into that. So there are ways that you can make Orcust worse while also making it better. I think this is the best way to do it. I don't like the fact that we have 4 limit 3s. I think that Orcust's main deck monsters need a break, but I don't want Orcust to see so much play. Really, Babel is the problem, right? Babel should never have been printed, but we're not going to ban Orchestrated Babel, so since we're not going to ban Orchestrated Babel, put Babel and Galatea to limit 2. That way, Galatea sees less interaction on turn 2, and you're able to make Orcust run out of resources at some point. Alright, Unlimits. Let's talk about Unlimits. So, Unlimit, Lunalight, Emerald Bird, and Lunalight, Crimson Fox. Like, there's no reason for this anymore. We have much better Lunalight cards at this point. There's no reason to limit on any Lunalight cards. They're not good. Lunalights are a decent deck, but not a good deck. And these nerfs are from ages ago. We've already reverted the one to Yellow Martin, so just take them off. Like, just let Lunalights see play and be good for a bit. Floodgate Trap Hole, this card is not good. It's been good before. It's not good anymore. It's annoying, certainly, but it's not as powerful as a card like, for example, Terrors of the Overroot, which is basically the same thing. So, just take this card off the Limit 3 list. There's way too many Limit 3 cards already. Let people who have Floodgate Trap Hole play the card. Beatrice was limited because of Burning Abyss. Burning Abyss is a bad deck. So, the version of Utopia that plays this still has to deal with Gaga Revenge being limited to 1. I'm not saying to take Gaga Revenge off the limit list, so just relieve Beatrice from the situation. There's not really a reason to have Beatrice limited to 3 and Tour Guide be limited to 3. I understand that you want to keep Burning Abyss down, but Burning Abyss doesn't need to be kept down. And Tour Guide is a good card. I'm not saying Tour Guide should be unlimited, but Beatrice doesn't need to be limited with Tour Guide. Mirror Force, this card is bad, again, so just unlimit this card, let people play Mirror Force. The animation looks good, let us enjoy the animation, and let us troll noobs and mess with NPCs without wasting our limit 1 slot, please. Topologic Bomber Dragon, this card has seen exactly 0 play since it got printed. Just like how the Luster Draco Slayer, whatever it was called, the Pendulum card that got limited to 1 when it was first released, has seen 0 play and has since been unlimited. Topologic Bomber Dragon is a good card, but because it's limit 1, no one plays it. Even Rockets don't play it because they would rather play the Draco Berserker. So if you don't want the card to see any play at all, leave it alone. But if the card, which is supposed to be a boss monster from Vrains, is to see any play at all, just unlimit it. We only have 1 copy anyway, it's fine. Cybernetic Overflow and Cyberloop Fusion was supposed to be on here. Hold on. We do it live, chat. Alright, so Cybernetic Overflow and Cyberload Fusion. So these cards are both good, and they have good synergy together. Cybernetic Overflow lets you banish Cyber Dragons from your hand to pop cards without targeting, which is very strong. And Cyberload Fusion lets you fuse banished cards and by shuffling them into your deck. But here's the thing. The cards that are banished are not treated as Cyber Dragon. They're only treated as Cyber Dragon while they're in the graveyard or on the field. So for the most part, Cyberload Fusion is basically just like a quick play version of Overload Fusion, unless you have a lot of Cyber Dragon monsters, and we don't. So these cards don't need to be limit 2 anymore. They really don't. This has been power crept. This card, letting you fusion summon during the battle phase is nice, but that's basically the same as El Shaddoll Fusion at this point, and El Shaddoll Fusion sees play at 3 and it's fine at 3. No one is complaining about Shaddolls. Shaddolls are not a bad deck. So Unlimits Cyberload Fusion let people play Cyber End Dragon and laugh at people. And Cybernetic Overflow, Cyber Dragon Core is the only normal summon this deck has, so Cybernetic Overflow should be a card that we can play, search, that sort of thing. Just let Cyber Dragons play. You know, you just gave them Galaxy Soldier. Digital Bug Rhinoceros, this card is limit 2, and it pops every card on your opponent's field if they happen to have monsters with the same defense points. You know what else does that? Machina Citadel. And Machina Citadel is much easier to summon than a rank 7. So unlimit Rhinoceros. It doesn't need to be limited anymore. Concentrating Current, this card was limited because of the fusion for Invoked. I think it was Invoked Magelicus or whatever. That card has since been unlimited, so this card doesn't need to be limited anymore. There's nothing that it competes with anymore. There's barely any limit 2s left in the game, so just unlimit this card and let us play Concentrating Current again. Void Feast and Void Vanishment. At this point, Infernoids have been severely power crept. Yes, I've seen Infernoids be played with Live Twins, and that's cute. I've seen them see play with Salamander and Phoenix, also cute. That's great. I want people to be able to experiment and play Infernoids if they want to. There's no reason to not play Infernoids. So unlimit these cards, let people play Infernoids again. It's ridiculous. And then lastly, Cup of Ace. Cup of Ace is not... Cup of Ace is a meme. Like, if you play Cup of Ace right now, you're going to lose the game. So unlimit Cup of Ace, let people have fun playing Cup of Ace if they want to. Alright, and that's it. So let me know in the comments what you think should be changed. I will have a poll open as well. So my name is Serafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.